Hey, so I was saying that I'm saying that is an authority at Salesforce. I'm sure most of us, or every one of us, has read her profile. She's had over 30 customer service through now, and I read her profile that she's someone that has got a whole lot of insight as far as CRM, customer service, skills is concerned. Because a lot, I want to eat in about 20 minutes into it. Angela, first of all, thank you for today. I'm sure more people will come on board. What's the subject of discussion for every one of us, either in business or not, because we all need to know how to. The 21st century customer is complex. Uh, the customer today is dynamic. Um, and the tech ahead of organizations. Catch up today. I'm sure you So I want to give the floor to you so that you can go ahead and do your presentation on the question and answer Q&A session will commence. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions and answers. First, is a very aspect of business. As I'm concerned, is the best way to create differentiation. Once again, welcome, Angela, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Uko. I'm sorry I didn't catch a lot of what you said. I could barely understand it because it was breaking up a lot. But thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And when I was putting together my presentation, it reminded me of how much I love Salesforce. Once I start talking about it, and then I just get into my zone. But I'm just gonna share my slides here. And I'll stop sharing my video if that helps. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Angela Murphy, and I am a Salesforce administrator. I work for Liberty IT Solutions here in the US in Georgia. Their headquarters is actually in Virginia, but they allow me to work from home in Georgia. So I'm really loving that, especially with the virus and everything that's going on. So I just wanted to start off by kind of talking about how I learned about Salesforce and how I got to where I am today, I guess. I first learned about Salesforce when I was working for Hewlett Packard Enterprise. They were an end user for Salesforce, and probably about 4 years in, they were looking for a new CRM to integrate with their ERP system. And so they chose Salesforce, and I was one of the few people who got to learn about it in the very beginning. And it was my role to train people and teach them how to use the system. And so from there, I fell in love with Salesforce and knew that this was a career path that I really wanted to take. So I got my first certification. And about 6 months later, I was able to use that certification to get my first full-time job as an administrator at Cleaver Brooks here in Georgia. Cleaver Brooks is an end user, and they are actually a manufacturing company, which was something completely different than I've ever worked with before. So it was kind of a learning experience. I had to learn the business. I didn't know anything about manufacturing, but I knew that I had the skills to do the job, but I still knew that I had to learn the business because it wasn't something that came naturally to me. So from there, I got another certification and then decided that I wanted to do something different. And with the same role, I started working for Liberty IT Solutions. And they're actually a Salesforce partner, which means that they are contracted to do implementations and consulting work for other companies. And the companies that they actually do work for is the government. And from there, I've accomplished three more certifications since I've been here. So now I want to talk about some of the challenges that I personally have seen when it comes to people deciding to choose a certain CRM system. So my first experience with it was working in sales. And one of the problems that they were having is being able to track the activities of their sales reps. Um, they knew that there were opportunities out there for orders, but they didn't know what they were because a lot of times people were keeping that information either on a piece of paper, they might keep it on a sticky note, or they keep it in an Excel spreadsheet on their desktop. And so in order to collaborate and really learn from each other and know what's going on, they had to have a big meeting, an hour or two, where everyone gets together and talk about what they have going on. And then from there, they know what's happening, which also leads to the company and the managers being able to forecast, being able to know what is coming up. What do we expect? What kind of sales do we expect to bring in the next month, in the next 90 days for the quarter? They didn't have that information readily available to them. And another thing was being able to report, being able to see what's going on just by clicking on a report. You can't do that if everyone has all of their information in a Excel spreadsheet on their desktop or on a piece of paper. The next challenge that I've seen is in customer service. I spent a lot of time at Cleaver Brooks helping customer service get set up on Salesforce. One of their biggest issues was response time and being able to respond to customers in a good amount of time. Not being able to access information as quickly as they would like was a real big hindrance for them because they would have to go in one system to get some information and go into another system to get another set of information just to be able to help the customer. Being able to collaborate with each other. Um, you might have to call. Our offices were all over the place. We had probably, I don't know how many offices, but they were all in different states. So to have to get on the phone and call someone every time you need to ask a question was kind of hard to do, especially if you have the customer on the phone with you at the same time. Being able to escalate a case. So if there's a problem, okay, I need to know who to escalate it to. I need to set a priority for it. How urgent is this that I need a response back? And then being able to report on the activity that's happening within the service department. Um, what activity is happening that is related to, say, a specific product that we need to address. Maybe there's a lot of customers are having the same problem with this specific boiler. And really what that's telling us is that we need to take a look at that boiler and see what it is that is causing that problem and get it fixed so that we can stop some of these calls from coming in. Another issue is one of the things that I've worked on at Cleaver Books, but I'm also working on right now at Liberty is integration. So being able to share data between two different systems. So at Cleaver Brooks, we had an ERP system where we kept all of our orders. But inside Salesforce, we needed to be able to see some of that data so that the reps or the customer service and the sales reps didn't have to go back and forth between two systems. And then automation, being able to automate some of those processes so that it doesn't take up as much time and the sales reps can get back to selling and customer service can complete their service requests as quickly as possible. Sharing documents, same thing, having to go back and forth between two systems was causing a lot of time challenges. Am I talking too fast? Okay. So all of those companies decided that all of those companies decided that Salesforce was a good solution for them. And so Salesforce, as you know, is a CRM system, and it stands for Customer Relationship Management System. I like to personally change it around to MRC, which is a way to manage the relationship with your customers. If you look at the bottom here, Salesforce's definition of what Salesforce is it's a customer relationship management solution that brings companies and customers together. And that's a great way to explain it. And it does integrate with different things. They have marketing, sales, commerce, service, all in one system so that they don't have to go back and forth between different systems. So everything about Salesforce is in the cloud, and they have different clouds. So Sales Cloud is basically something that the sales reps can use. And they're not necessarily sales reps because nonprofit organizations use it also. Um, and they use it to manage their leads and the opportunities and the quotes, and even be able to see their orders from an ERP system within that same system. Service Cloud it's based on the same technology as Sales Cloud, but it, it is kind of a way to make it easier for the service reps to navigate and have everything on one screen and quickly get to what they need to get so that they can solve issues as quickly as possible and see the data that they need to see as soon as possible. For example, if you can even connect your telephone to it, and if a customer calls in and that their contact information is already in Salesforce, then when that person calls in, their contact information automatically pops up on the screen. And that's a feature of Service Cloud. Marketing Cloud, of course, like it says, is for marketing. They tend to deal with leads and campaigns that the company has. So they have to interact with sales, they have to interact with service and with the customers at the same time, and potential customers. So it does a lot of good things for them. Community Cloud, you might know about Community Cloud if you've ever signed up to be part of a company's website and they give you access to information that isn't available if you're not a subscriber to their site, such as different ways to contact them. There may be a discussion group on there. There may be detailed product information on there. And this is just 4 of the different clouds that Salesforce has. There are more. They have a financial cloud, they have commerce cloud, and other things I can't think off the top of my head, but it's a very large system. So some of the solutions to those challenges that I mentioned before, in sales, so they had an issue with tracking activities. So in Salesforce, they can create leads and opportunities, and then you based on the information that they place in there, they can track what's going on. The managers know exactly what's going on with the opportunities. They can look at it and see where they are in the process, if they need help, if there are any issues. They can also create tasks and events and share those with others. They can do forecasting, so they can, on the opportunity, they would populate the stage. Stage, probability, and priority are different fields on an opportunity. So they could look at the stage of that opportunity and the probability of it closing and of how big of a priority it is. And based on that, they can determine, they can forecast for the future, like what they expect to close and when they expect for it to close. Reporting. Reporting is a big deal for managers and executives. For example, here's an example here. They can create a report that shows how many opportunities they are expecting to close in the next 30 days. And not necessarily how many, but exactly which one, so that they could set up meetings and talk to the sales reps and find out what they need to do to help ensure that those opportunities actually do close. Customer service, like I said, response time is a big deal for them. They can increase response time because everything is in one system. They don't have to go back and forth to different systems. They don't have to call different people to find out different information. Automation helps them a lot because when they close a case, for example, there can be an email that is automatically sent to the customer that says that their case was closed and that there is the resolution that was done for that case, so that prevents the service rep from having to go in and create an email on their own. And it saves them a lot of time. And of course, visibility, everything is in one system, like I said, so they have visibility to everything. Collaboration, they can talk with each other through chatter. Chatter is kind of like, it's kind of like Facebook where you mention someone, and it'll automatically send that person an email that someone mentioned you. And then they can click on a link and it takes them exactly to that exact record that they were mentioned in, and it saves time. They don't have to go search for the record. They just click on the link and it automatically takes them there, and they're notified immediately when someone, and they can have a conversation right there, and that conversation is saved so that when someone else goes back to look at that conversation, they know exactly what happened in that process with that opportunity. And then you can create queues. So a queue is basically, instead of chattering one person, you chatter a group of people. Of course, access to more information. Escalations, they can access, they can use assignment rules, basically. They can assign cases to managers or to a group of people when the customer service rep does not have the answer. So they can assign it to management. They know exactly who it is, so they assign it to him, or to a group of people. They may not know who the person is exactly that needs to respond, but there's a group where everyone in that group gets notified that someone needs to address this situation. Some reporting that can be done for customer service is how many issues are related to a specific product. If we're having an abundant amount of issues with one product, then we need to look at that product and see what the issue there is. Integration, sharing data. So they can share, like I mentioned before, they can share data between the sales reps and the order management. And also you can do some automation in there. So based on information that's in order management, the ERP system. So let's say something gets updated in ERP, and based on what updated there, it can automatically update something in Salesforce. And of course, you can share document between both systems, both ways, however you decide to do that. So some of the career paths that are available now that I've seen and that Salesforce shares with everyone is right here. Salesforce administrator. I'm a Salesforce administrator. The work that we do is more, we call it declarative work, where we don't do any programming, any code. But we have our hands in everything as far as the business is concerned, and we can do configuration all the way up until the point where it calls for something custom to be built. Once that happens, then you need a developer. So the developers can write code, and I'll show you what the different languages are that they use in just a moment. A lot of times the administrator is the person who is the interface of the business. So they would normally wouldn't go directly to a developer to get something done. They would come through the administrator or through the business analyst to ask for things to be done. And then the Salesforce architects. An architect is kind of top level IT person. They're like, I consider them somebody who can do it all. They know different languages, not just languages that are specific to Salesforce, but they know a broad range. They really understand the back end of Salesforce and how everything works together. The business analyst, they are basically, like what it says, they are analyzing the business, and a lot of them are also admins, so they know how to go in and develop things or customize the system. But their focus is mostly on, you'll see them do a lot of reporting and taking that data that's in there and manipulating it in a way that it makes sense to the business and it gives them the data that they need. And then you have the marketing. There are You have Marketing Cloud. There's also Pardot that can integrate with Salesforce. And of course, they're all about bringing in business to the company. And then sales, the sales reps, they're going to use the Sales Cloud to go out and make sales. And as you can see, I have on here the number of certifications that are available for those. So you just have to pick a career path that is more aligned to what your desires are. You know, I would love to learn how to write code, but it's not something that I think I would enjoy. So I don't put a lot of emphasis on that for myself. But I love being a Salesforce administrator, and I am doing a lot more business analysis work. So some of the programming technologies for Salesforce, Lightning Component Framework, and like I said, I am not a developer, so I cannot go into a lot of detail about what these are, but you have the Lightning Component Framework, Apex, which is something that's specific to Salesforce, and then Visualforce. And I do know that Visualforce is kind of the user interface. It's more like what you see when you log in. And Apex is the program that goes on behind the scenes that tells the system what to do with this Visualforce page. Some of the soft skills that I know that are very important. It's very important to not only have the technical skills, but also to have some good soft skills. And that will, I know, I believe for a fact that it will put you at the top when it comes to getting jobs, because a lot of people don't have the soft skills. They only know how to program. They only know how to build. But it's very, very, very important for you to understand the business process. What is it the problem that you're solving, and how does the business do that process? Being able to communicate with people, and not just the people that you work alongside, the other technical people that you work alongside, but also being able to talk to the business and take their business needs and convert it into a technical solution. And that involves listening. You really have to listen to what they're saying and hear their frustrations, because a lot of times they think that what they need is one thing, but if you really listen to them, you'll find out that what they need is completely different than what they're saying they need. And they just don't know that. And it's no one's fault. They just don't understand how the technology works. And so it's a lot of times it's our responsibility to help them understand that. You have to be able to collaborate. The job that I'm on now is the first time that I've worked where I wasn't the only admin, or the only person in my group that worked in Salesforce. And so it really forces you to learn how to work with people who have sometimes the same skills as you, and not feel like it's a competition, but feel like we're working together to get this job done. So let's just utilize the skills that we have to get it done. Being able to prioritize your time, being able to present. Even if you're a developer, sometimes you may have to present, depending on the company that you're in. Just Friday, Thursday, we had a developer who had to present. And normally the admin does that, or the business analyst did that. But because of what he was showing, it was all about integration, and that's what the developer does. He had to present. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned personally is to not be afraid to ask questions. I've gone round and round in circles trying to get things done. Had I not asked, if I had just asked the questions that were going on in my head, it would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of headache. So never be afraid to ask questions, and never think that your questions are dumb, because you'll find out that some people have the same questions, but they're just afraid to ask. And that's it for me. You can find me on LinkedIn. And do we have any questions?
Thanks, Angela, for that wonderful presentation. It was brilliant. One question that I have for you is this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The question that I have for you is around the biggest challenge you experience as a Salesforce administrator. Can you talk to us about that?
Hold on, I'm trying to get my screen back up here. Okay, here we go. My biggest challenges, probably the biggest challenge for me is understanding the business. You know, you go from one company to another and the business is completely different, especially going from an IT company to a manufacturing company to a government. Government is like a whole new level. And the processes that you have to go through to get things done can be kind of intense. And so that's the biggest challenge for me. The learning how to use the system was probably the easiest part. It's the business parts that can get tricky, and every business is different.
All right. Thanks for answering that question for me. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball to anyone in the room.
Yeah, I have a question.
Do you have any?
Yeah, I have a question, Angela. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that I found out about Salesforce because I'm not a customer service or PR person, but immediately this came up as a topic and subject of conversation. I did some research on Salesforce. One of the things that a lot
Oh, man. Uko, we cannot hear what you're saying. Go, please. Can you please stop your video and see if that will allow us to hear your question? Can you stop your video so we can just hear your audio?
Do you want me to start my video too, Nels?
okay.
No, not you.
Are you, Naz, are you talking to me?
All right, so we cannot hear you. We'll wait till maybe his audio clears back up again. It looks like Udek Bunnam had a question. Mr. Mora,
Okay,
I know you had a question. Do you want to go ahead and ask it now, or do you want me to read your question first?
hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Mora, you got the floor. You can
Okay.
ask your question now.
Yeah, I was just thinking as Angela was making the presentation, I wanted to find out if Salesforce enables service-based government agencies to improve their services. If she has any experience within the US environment of where a government agency has effectively used Salesforce to improve its services.
So the company that I'm with now, they're using Salesforce to answer complaints that are coming in from Veterans Affairs. And so they're using Service Cloud. And based on those complaints, you know, they have service requests, a request for service. So they have a case and a service request. Right now, what we're working on is integrating the service request system with Salesforce. Anything outside of that, I do know also, yeah, I forgot about this. So there was when Trump became president, there was a phone number that he gave out for everyone to be able to call the White House. It's called a White House hotline. And that's actually what I'm working in now, but I don't work with that phone number. And so it allows anyone to call if they have questions for the White House. And those phone calls come through Salesforce, and they're all captured in Salesforce. And our company was the one who set that up. Is that the question you're asking?
It leads to some, but yes, I have that. Your explanation leads to some other questions. So we can use Salesforce as the driving. From the example you gave on the White House, we can use Salesforce as a contact center solution where when a call comes in through probably a given number, you can use that to direct the call to the customer service person, the, wherever he is within the organization that should respond to such a call. You can do that with Salesforce. The calls will be
Absolutely, yes. Yes, it can be done.
okay.
So the company, basically, like I was saying, with understanding the business, the company has to tell you how they want that to work. So they may say, okay, whenever a call comes in, I want it directed to the right person, or they can say, I want that person that answers the phone to complete this case and help this person. I've seen it both ways.
Okay, just since you're also, I don't know if you are part of the group.
Hello.
Some of the questions I have you may not have. It is not. It's okay if you don't have an immediate answer, but I'm thinking: has Salesforce been used by any revenue agency, whether at a county, state, or federal level in the US?
On a federal level?
Or even it's states or
State,
level.
local. Yeah. For revenue generating, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. You don't need to answer immediately, but I don't know if we have. I just wanted to have an insight on the use cases for such.
Can I jump in?
Okay, you can, Ben.
Hi. So I'm going to circle back to your last question before I ask mine. I had a fair experience working in Boston with some organizations that implemented Salesforce. So I can confirm that it is deployed across all levels of government, especially those since governments in the US are quite big when it comes to relating with their customers, whether they are private residents or contractors or other government organizations. So that is real. So I experienced that firsthand. My question is around some of the experiences that we're trying to achieve in Nigeria. So one of the responsibilities I have now is around promoting outsourcing in Nigeria. So Nigeria wants to be able to get a bite of the global outsourcing market. And your opinion, how might Salesforce, or any CRM from that matter, be able to be used as one of the windows for promoting outsourcing in Nigeria. If we were looking at being able to support international organizations from here, using that platform.
Not sure I understand the question. Miles?
Miss Dewa. So some of the question you were asking, it didn't come through entirely clear. There was an element that.
Okay.
So with the bits and pieces.
Can I repeat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So my question is, do you see us that's Nigeria. We are interested in promoting the outsourcing industry. Do you see us being able to consider Salesforce as one of those areas where we can develop a mass skill sets and use that as one of the windows for promoting outsourcing business in Nigeria?
Are you asking from a Nigerian perspective or from a Nigerian perspective?
Yeah.
Are you asking if it's possible to use Salesforce as an outsourcing tool for businesses? Is that your question? Or maybe you can type your question inside the chat room. How about that? Because it's still not coming through clearly.
Or are you asking that, can you learn Salesforce and outsource it to other people, those skills?
Can I try something? This is Humble speaking.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, Humble speaking here.
Because from your presentation.
Oh,
Can we?
I'm
Can
thinking
we?
okay, sorry about that. I think what Mr. Bernard is talking about is if it will be possible to deploy Salesforce as an outsourcing partner with either federal government of Nigeria, private businesses. I think he's trying to talk about how that can be effectively done, or is it possible that Salesforce could build a team here, a local team, to deliver that quality of service back here at home? I think that's what he's talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, Salesforce is in the cloud, and it's, if you learn the skills, and anyone can become a Salesforce partner and implement for other people. Absolutely.
Ben, was that your question?
Well, to an extent, but I'm tapping my question now, so if you want to say pretty soon.
How about this? Since we're having a poor connection,
I'm tapping my question.
He said he's typing his question. He's typing his question.
okay now, no problem.
Maybe I should go ahead and ask my question. Our particular the report aspect, having a lot of interference. Can we have the mics muted? There's a whole lot of interference. Can we have our mics muted so that once mute? Okay, Angela, my question is I'm interested in the reporting aspect, and the tools we use, the tools I use for data analysis is Power BI, and I heard you mention about Salesforce reporting, and I'm wondering the kind of information, the kind of insights or data one can get from Salesforce, because yes, Salesforce is not widely used in Nigeria, and but I know plugins or interface between Salesforce and some of these tools that we use, such as Power BI and Tableau. But my question is, can Salesforce be used as a lone data analysis? I'm not really.
Sorry. So
I can hear you now.
The out-of-the-box reporting for Salesforce is limited. I'll give you that. It can do a lot, but when it comes to like people who specialize in reporting, they probably don't like it. So they do have an add-on called Wave Analytics, and it's a much more powerful. And I have not used that yet, but I do know that it's comparable to Microsoft BI and Tableau. And it's much more powerful. So someone who is really into data, they would probably find it very useful. But by Salesforce by itself without that add-on is limited.
Okay. Do you have the name of the add-on?
Wave, it's called Wave Analytics.
Wave Analytics. Okay. I want to write that down so that I'll look it up. I don't know. Is Ben question ready? I'm using a smartphone. I'm having issues connecting with laptop, so I'm using a smartphone, and the functionality is limited. So I don't know if you could handle it from that end.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, it's a, yeah, I see a question from Mr. Benarewa. Okay, so I'm interested to discuss how Salesforce platform might be used to promote outsourcing. Okay, when you say outsourcing, there, do you mean like, okay, can you explain outsourcing? Are you referring to business to business, or you mean like what are you referring to when you say outsourcing there?
If you can hear me now, I hope it's clear now.
Sorry?
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Let me give Angela some perspective to what we discussed last year. Sorry, last week, not last year.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get it. It wasn't clear.
He's going to tell me about what he talked about last week.
I said, let me circle back to what we discussed last week.
Okay.
Okay. Particularly within the context of this whole program, which is jobs in Africa.
Okay.
So my question, I'm looking at how workforce platform can be instrumental to creating jobs in Nigeria.
Oh, I get
I'm
what
also
you're
looking at it
saying.
within the context of the fledgling outsourcing industry, which we are promoting, particularly following the COVID-19 pandemic, where there's a lot of attention. Yes, a lot of attention is being put towards, offsite work, people remote work, and so on. So from your discussion, Angela, I could see that there is an opportunity, right? Not just for deployment of Salesforce in Nigeria, but for it to be one of these platforms where we can drive outsourcing and create jobs for people and so on. So that's the context in which I'm looking.
So Salesforce is a tool that is kind of expensive. So a lot of businesses, unless you're a nonprofit, then they give a lot of, you can get free licenses if you're a nonprofit. So it really would depend on companies implementing Salesforce for their business. And once they do that, then the job opportunity is huge, I think. So I would say that it starts with someone marketing Salesforce to the companies that have an issue, understanding what problem Salesforce solves, and trying to get companies to implement Salesforce to solve their business problems. And as you can see from the different the career paths that I showed you, they're going to need those people.
Angie, can you share a little bit about the structure of your company as well as how it's being utilized with the VA? First of all, the VA is a government company. What is the VA, first of all?
Veteran Affairs.
Veteran Affairs. So if you can explain that to the team, people on the call, because they don't know if it's a governmental agency or what Veteran Affairs is about. Explain that. I think it would help answer the question that they have. And number two, if you can kind of just paint a picture of what's the company called? I'm so sorry. Liberty Solutions. How does Liberty Solutions make money? Because I think what they're caring about and at this point is, Salesforce solves a lot of problems, and I see, that it can help track activities for business, forecasting, reporting, revenue, lead generations, and all that. They're just wanting ideas of how one can have, maybe I myself want to be like a Salesforce administrator. Can I start a business from that? Can I employ people and basically close the unemployment gap? If I understand Salesforce, I think you're doing that. Like right now, it's your job. You're doing that, but you're doing that with Liberty Solutions. You're also doing with the VA. So paint that picture for us.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get it now. So Liberty is a perfect example of that. So Liberty is a Salesforce partner, which means they have a relationship with Salesforce and they are allowed to go out and do business with other companies. Doesn't have to be the government, but they chose to do government. And so because they have that and they've grown their business to a point where they have had to, once they go out and they get a contract, they have to get a contract with a company or a government office. They get that contract and then they have to hire people to go do the work. So as a partner, they've hired a lot of us to be the people going out and doing that work. And on just my team, I mentioned that I'm on a Scrum team. And on just that Scrum team, there's me, an admin, there's a project manager, there's 2 developers, and then there's a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master basically keeps everything organized and makes sure the team is doing what they're supposed to do. And then on top of that, we have managers who are responsible for helping us when we run into obstacles and helping us navigate the whole process of doing business with the Veterans Affairs. So that's just one team in the whole company. There's several teams in that company. So it could, I don't know how many teams we have right now that are doing different projects, but they're constantly winning business. I know we've won a few contracts this year from Veterans Affairs, and they're constantly trying to win new business. Does that help?
It does.
My understanding, let me just weigh in, please. Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Carry on.
Okay. I've listened to Mr. Ben and I've listened to Angela. My understanding of Mr. Ben's question is what I just typed. Can we use Salesforce as a tool or software to build a platform that you can use to drive an outsourcing initiative? By outsourcing, if I understand clearly what outsourcing is, if you click on the web link that I just shared, it gives you a number of sites that skilled people and firms that need skilled people to work on something can meet. And there will be contract, there will be an exchange a service from a skilled person wherever it is to a company that needs a service. Can we build such a service with Salesforce? If I understand clearly, that is what I think Mr. Ben is asking, but he can clarify. One of such service is this. Let me share this site again. The first shared. If you click on remote.co, you'll see a site that helps companies that need stuff to be done, skilled remote workers, to assess those remote workers wherever they are. Can we build such a service with Salesforce and coordinate the logistics, the processes that are involved in making sure that such works seamlessly, effectively? Can we do such a thing with Salesforce? That is my understanding of the question. I'm also interested in that.
So if you're talking about creating a website that lists Salesforce jobs where people are looking for,
No, not necessarily Salesforce jobs. Salesforce is a customer relationship management tool. Remote.co that I shared with you is a business that enables
Collaboration.
collaboration between companies that require stuff to be done for them,
Mhm.
workers that have the skill set to do that job. It can be a Salesforce job, it can be anything, to have a
Okay.
contract and get the stuff done. Can you build such a service? Yeah, using Salesforce.
Yes. So you're not talking about building the website itself. You're talking about using Salesforce to do this.
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
As
Absolutely. Because
as
remember,
a platform.
as a platform, yes. So remember, I talked about a community. So when you build a community, it looks like a website on the outside, but on the underneath it, there's the Salesforce platform. So the users would see this site, but then you have all this data that you need on the other side. So absolutely, yes. And they have different templates that you can use based on what's important to you. Basically, Salesforce can be customized to use it however you want. And a lot of times you can't necessarily answer questions like, can I use it for this? Can I use it for that? Because you have to get more detail about what the person is asking for. And that takes time.
Sure.
So I want to just piggyback on what Angie just said in regards to the question that was asked. So Salesforce, being a CRM tool, we know that it solves problems for companies. Okay? Angie talked about a lot of them. And obviously that's not the laundry list of what Salesforce offers. Yes. So the way you have to think about it is if you want to be like a provider, like a service provider, if you're a service provider, that means that you have some kind of back end system that users will subscribe to. In this particular sense, you can have a Salesforce back-end system, and you can have users subscribe to, Salesforce services. For instance, you might have a business that wants to know how they're driving leads, right? If somebody, opens an email, how do we know that that email was open at what time was it open? Do we need to send another one to that person? Salesforce does this, right? So if you're a service provider, let's say Mr. Mora's or Mora's Salesforce agency, it's been created. You have to now hire Salesforce administrators. You have to hire Salesforce developers, a lot of them, right? And you have to train them, and then they could be the ones that are providing these services to various customers within the country. So what she does now, working for Liberty Solutions, that's what Liberty Solutions does. And one of the customers of Liberty Solutions is a government. So it could be a government agency. I work for Cisco, and at Cisco we use Salesforce extensively. Like we use it extensively. Emails, reporting, not just reporting for top leadership, but reporting for the actual consumers, which are the account managers that are engaging with the customers. They need to know. An email was sent out. I'm hearing some noises, so I'm going to mute something people here.
Sorry.
An email was sent out. When that email was sent out, was it open? Because we want to know. We want to maintain that lead. When it's open, that email was open, but that person never responded. But because they opened, did they scroll down in it? Did they stop halfway? Did they read all the way to the bottom? Because if they read the top part of that email that I sent, maybe they were not interested. If they read further down in that email that I sent to generate a lead, maybe they're more interested. So I need to send the next level of email out to those customers. So yes, you would need to train. Liberty Solution is doing exactly what you're asking about. And so if they're able to do it here, I don't see why we cannot do it anywhere in the world.
Just a second.
Just by browsing, I found some use cases where Salesforce are being utilized in the government, in the aerospace industry, in enterprises, hospitality industries. So there's a lot of use cases. We can get you more information about that and how to drive that. But just think about, how do you become a Salesforce partner if you're thinking about offering services and outsourcing and closing the unemployment gap and creating capacity. All right, Maura, does that answer your question? Yeah. And Mr. Ewa, does that answer your question?
I think that there's room for that engagement.
Can I show you an example of a community?
Personally, I think that there is there's an opportunity for us to discuss and possibly see how we can promote the use of Salesforce here, particularly in the public sector, right? Because there is a strong desire right now coming up of the COVID pandemic to ensure that there is uninterrupted access to government services, and there's also quality service and so on and so on. I'll be interested to talk with you. I'd like to see what presence. I'd like to know what the presence of Salesforce in Nigeria, and if we can also key into that to that directly to government organizations, or to use it as I said earlier on, an outsourcing platform where a lot of organizations can utilize the expert practitioners like you to support operations of government offices. Yeah.
Sounds good. I think what I'm hearing is an opportunity to engage more. What I'm hearing is an opportunity to do some further exploration. And I think that's definitely needed. And so we can have follow-up conversations after this. We can coordinate that, or any one of us can coordinate that. But Andrea wanted to show us a demo. She wanted to show us a little demonstration. If you guys are open, I will let her go ahead and share her screen with us.
Well,
you want to see that?
How long would it?
Yeah, go ahead.
How long will it last? 5?
Just a second. I think this is what you guys are talking about, and I just want to show you real quick an example.
Okay.
It won't take long. So I looked this up just now, and I found out that this is, can you see?
Yes, we see Dell Technologies Cloud.
Yes,
so
I see that.
I looked up customer communities that use Salesforce, and I found this one. And so I can look at this and I can tell you that these different things right here at the top are, well, I'll say products, solutions, services, and perspectives. These are all, if you know anything about a database, these are all different, 4 different databases inside Salesforce. So if I clicked on this, if I was inside my Salesforce org and I went to products, it would list all of the products that we have. But on this community here, it's displaying it in a way that looks good to the user. So Salesforce is on the back end of this. And that's just what I think you guys were asking about.
Okay. One of my tasks, I'm just giving you these insights. So I don't know of what value that would be, but one of my responsibilities this year is to come up with strategies that can strengthen stakeholder relationship between FIRS and our numerous stakeholders, taxpayers, government agencies, businesses, international agencies that we have to interface with. So we in principle, we want to have a contact center, right?
Mhm.
But how that would work to solve our problem, we've not articulated that clearly. So that's why my interest was got when you mentioned how Salesforce can be used as a part of or a key component of a contact center solution. I would like to understand more about such use case of Salesforce and what Liberty, what's the name of the company?
IT.
Liberty IT. Okay, Liberty
Mhm.
IT solutions can offer. So that's my takeaway. If I from this presentation, if I can get more information on how we can utilize Salesforce in that use case, that would be great.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's one of those things that would take consulting. And we'd have to sit down and talk with you, figure out what it is that you need, and understand your business. It all starts with that, understanding your business.
Good. So I'll have to leave the meeting now. I'm not at home. I'm in the office. I had to wait to attend the session, so I have to drive home. We have a curfew by 10 o'clock, which is about 36 minutes away. So I have to leave now so I can drive home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the meeting is almost over anyway, so that's good. We'll be in contact. If you can pass your information to Ms. Duko, and we can, coordinate that discussion further. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Angela is.
Yes.
Okay. I think there's a question, Mr. Warren, asking that I think maybe you didn't get it right. And the question is, yeah, what we're trying to do is to create opportunities for young people and to create
Oh
key
my gosh,
professional
Duko, we cannot hear you. Oh,
for real.
I'm
Oh
going to
my
use a
God.
button. Type your question, young.
Okay, let me see if I can get
Type your question. First, we need to change your SIM card from Airtel to MTN, change it to Ethernet, Ethernet, everything until you get a
Mr. Coach, it could be your mic. It could be your mic, the microphone.
it's the network. Can you hear me now?
No, the decibel is real. It's not. We cannot. The audio. It's not audible. So I think it can be your headphones and your mic.
It's not. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Like, you still can't hear me.
Can you type your question? Can you type your question? Because I'm sure we all want to know. All right, thank you, Mora. You can go. Nice to meet you, and we'll follow up. Okay. So you just type your question now, so we can. Everybody wants to hear your question.
All right, Angel, this is Humble. While we are waiting for Mr. Kojosh to type his question, I have a quick one here. All right, do go ahead and type it.
So please, hang tight a moment. Maybe you can
Okay,
type
go ahead
your
and ask
question.
the question.
Somebody is going to speak.
Go ahead, Humble.
Okay. Now we've said a lot about you know, the Salesforce cloud. I was wondering, bringing it here back home in Nigeria, we'll have challenges like signal strength and of course power. You know, so where we have these kind of deficiencies, how does Salesforce function offline? Does it still keep up? Does it cover data at this period?
Salesforce is strictly a cloud system, so it's online. Unfortunately, you can download your data if you need to see. So, for example, if you have a report that you're working off of, you can always download that report to Excel and view it whenever you want to. But you have to realize that that data isn't real time. It was based on when you downloaded it.
Okay. I'm concerned about working offline. For instance, we have power fluctuations because back here at home in Nigeria, these are common things. Power fluctuation and inconsistency in data stream. You know, where we have this kind of deficiencies, how would that affect the quality of data that we're gonna get? Is it possible that Salesforce Cloud uh, still capture data when we are offline? Is it possible?
It will not collect data if you're offline. And if
I'd like to mention that, please.
okay.
Okay, because so I also work for government, and we have, of course, the challenge of power. Energy is well documented, but one of this, and a lot other people will believe that cloud is cloud technologies in general uh, going to be very beneficial to Nigeria, given especially the state of infrastructures, not just power, other infrastructure. So just to put things in perspective, a lot of services like Salesforce are already being deployed in Nigeria, and they're working very well. That is why we have professional, well-established data centers, data centers around. Even the telcos and banks that are servicing you now, even if you're in Nigeria, a lot of them are using cloud services like Salesforce, and they are, for the most part, they are outsourced. Right? So Nigerians, including individuals or governments, they are accessing services like this, but irrespective of the power situation, these services are mostly provided by third-party organizations like data centers. That's why when I asked my question, it was very well informed based on the trajectory that we are that is before us as a country, knowing that because we really want to expand the outsourcing practice in Nigeria. Outsourcing, I mean, both onshore and offshore, that services like this, platforms like this are going to be very, very useful. I'm very sure of that.
Yeah, I wish.
My question now.
Okay, yes. So 2 questions, Angie. The first question was around how does okay, in a situation where at any point a company may not have access to power, may not have access to the internet, how will Salesforce work? You know, if my computer and my application relies on cloud, that means that the computer needs to have power, computer needs to have access to the cloud. If I don't have internet, if I don't have electricity, if I don't have internet service, if I don't have electricity, how does, how does that application work in that scenario? So that was one thing. And then the score has a second question. So I'll let you answer that and then I'll ask you.
So that is where my expertise is limited. I don't know that you can do it without having internet access. And I don't know what Salesforce has set up in Nigeria as far as to help with that type of thing. So I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't know that you can do anything if you don't have power or internet.
So I do have an experience in that, so I'll support Angie in that way. I was a network engineer, and I've also designed data centers and implemented data centers for Fortune 500 companies to small companies, right? I know what it means to have a service provider brought into the site. I know what it means to have, dual ISP so that you can have high availability. I know all of that. When we talk about applications like Salesforce, it's in the cloud somewhere. That means that wherever that application is, it is accessible, from the internet at any point in time. Okay, so basically there's somebody who has put a bunch of servers out in some physical locations, maybe a plethora of them, and I, as a consumer, need to communicate to that data center in order to consume that application services, right? And so if you don't have access to the internet, if you don't have access to the data, then chances are you're not going to have. Now, I understand exactly what you're thinking about. How do we implement Salesforce? And how are we able to make money in a country that is experiencing an institutional void? Internet is a commodity in America or globally, power. That's something that, in Africa as a whole and several third world countries, power is not a commodity. So you see that most of those companies will have what's called an on-prem application. Okay, that means that application is purchased and is brought to that data center, the network closet, and it's placed there, and users on that network in that geographical location can access it. Because they now no longer have to go to the internet to collect that data or to process data or to make updates. When we talk about cloud applications, no, it's not on-prem, it's online. That will mean that Mr. Humble or Mr. Bernard, it would be your responsibility to communicate to your, is it Nepalite or private company, maybe get solar power, so that you can have high availability when it comes to power, or generators. I mean, that's what everybody uses at home. And then as far as the internet service provider is concerned, you as a business has to make that a commodity for you to be able to run that outsourcing agency, right? You're providing CRM to your customers, and you have maybe like 5 nines required in terms of high availability, then it is your responsibility to make sure that maybe you need to get 5 service providers. If you have power, then you also have internet. It's doable, but it can become cost prohibiting. But me, if you ask my humble opinion, I'm not a Salesforce. When you think about a business, data have direct contact with the customer, being able to perform lead generation, being able to run report and say what's in the pipeline today, or communicate with its constituents. When we're talking about governmental agencies, there's so many opportunities that Salesforce brings to the table that I, with my limited knowledge, already talk about that going forward. The other question,
Niles, can I just say this? Salesforce is the possibilities of what you can do in Salesforce are limited to your imagination. I mean, any question about can I do this, can I do that? Of course, the technology is there. Can you, the question is, do you have the tools to get it done? Do you have the people that are there to get it done for you? And I also want to say also that just the way this conversation is going is, we all have our little expertise in different areas. And I love that we can all pull them together and come up with solutions on how things work. Because I don't know a lot about the power and or data centers, but to be able to come together and collaborate, I like that. So thank you, Niles.
So answer Uko's question is next. Okay.
Can I
It says this.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, it says.
Can you hear me now? I wanna ask a question concerning what Ombu said. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying, what I'm saying is that don't we have a desktop cloud service? So
What is
in case you don't have internet connectivity, and then upload on the cloud, and whenever internet connection comes, that's what I'm saying. You don't have a desktop version that connects to the cloud application whenever there is internet connectivity, because internet connectivity is an issue in Africa, and what most organizations who run cloud services do is connect between the desktop and the cloud. Whenever connection comes again, can upload and or download from the cloud. You don't have something like that.
I understand what you're saying. No, I have not seen anything like that, to my knowledge.
So when we consume Salesforce, we don't have a desktop application at this
Right.
I have a link, and that link has a list of my customers that I interact with. I can, look and see everyone who's touched it. I can leave notes. I can find out information about how that deal was qualified. I mean, I can do so many different things, but I don't have a desktop app for it. I have a link. That's it. And I just have it bookmarked in my browser.
Now, one thing Salesforce is good for, and this is like something manual that most people wouldn't want to do, but if you had to, you have this backup, is anything that you can put into an Excel document, you can load into Salesforce. So say the service is down and you have this spreadsheet, and you keep track of things until the internet comes back up. And then someone who is an admin or something can take that Excel spreadsheet and load it up as soon as the power comes back on, and then everything's there at once. That's a manual option. It's a workaround, but it's not ideal.
Wow. Sales, wow.
Can't hear you, Niles.
Now, your mic.
Let's follow up on how one. Okay, I think I'm on now. Let's follow up on what Mr. Mora asked about, different businesses and integrations with government and all that. And then Mr. Humble asked about outsourcing. I think they both interested in that. Now, Mr. Uko just asked about a desktop application. So that's a third action item we can confirm and let you know. Now, the other question you had was this. Angie, listen to the question. It goes like this. It says, can Salesforce be used as a freelancer platform where a community of customers, customer sales professionals can collaborate to deliver a service to different clients? That's just like a Salesforce Partner request.
Are you talking about using Salesforce as that platform?
Yeah, that's what I see. That's what
I
I
mean,
think True Solutions does.
it can be used at that, but like I said, it's very expensive. So I don't know if that's something you want to use it for.
So what they're thinking about, Angie, let me tell you what I think they're thinking about. I want to have a Salesforce business. You know, he wants to know, can I acquire Salesforce and then sell it as services to other people? And I think I have an idea about how that works. I think here's one way it works. I think that I can become like a distributor, like a Salesforce partner, where I'm not owning the application. I'm just teaching Coach agency, Humble's agency, Angela's agency how to utilize it. And if they don't know how to use it, well, guess what? I have a bunch of Salesforce administrators that can use it, or can teach you, or can perform the business processes and functions that you need. Maybe you need a customized application. Well, I need Salesforce developer. As a freelancer, I can have a deck of them. And now those Salesforce developers can perform those custom needs for, you know, Meta or, I don't know, Midda, whatever company needs a customized application. I have a Salesforce end users or administrators or developers that can drive that solution, because that's what Liberty Solution does, isn't it?
Right. So you can either become a Salesforce partner or you can be a consultant. And usually consultants are just one person. They consult with the client, and they may, if they know how to do the work, they'll do it. If they don't, they will outsource and find someone who can and win the contract.
And I think
I'm interested in partnership.
Mbok, can you repeat, Ms. Ewa?
I'm interested in the Salesforce partnership.
Okay. Okay, let's have that discussion then. We'll take that one offline, okay? Because I think that's the same thing that Mr. Mora is interested in. And I think, Abraham, you put it really well there. Like, you put it really well. He says, today information is so spontaneous, so having to work offline isn't that needful. Yes, I couldn't put it any better than that. I think, you know, I understand that Nigeria may not be there yet, but we need to make sure that those don't limit us from driving solutions in the country. What else? I think that was the last question. Oh, no. Mr. Humble had another question. Mr. Humble, your last question is not clear. Please, can you say it? Can you explain the audio? Mr. Humble.
What I said there was just to complement what Anja said earlier. I typed it when Coach George was talking. It's not actually a question. Sorry about the question mark there.
Okay. Yeah. What Mr. Humble said, I don't know if you guys are looking at it.
I can see it.
You know, when it has to do with do you want to address that?
Right. It's a matter of, can it actually be deployed in Nigeria? You're absolutely right.
Yep. And then the other one was about communicated to the tech team. So really, it goes back to the infrastructure team in the company. If it's the governance, the infrastructure team that needs to decide, hey, if we're running a business, what are the high availability requirements that we need to create? And, you know, once you write that down, then you can, you know, think about what are the business things, like the actual things that need to put in place to ensure that you are able to deliver that level of high availability. You know, maybe it might mean to have 3 service providers or 3 backup power plants, you know, or go to solar power. I don't know. But the services that Salesforce, there's a reason why Salesforce is the #1 CRM. It's being consumed everywhere. right? How do we make it work for Nigeria? Okay, to me, this creates so much opportunity for people to learn how to use Salesforce administration or development in the
Yes.
continent, not just Nigeria, but in the continent. When we talk about cloud applications, I mean, this is where everything is going. So I'll stop right there and let Mr. Uko carry on. Mr. Uko, do you want to try to talk some more and see if your audio is better?
Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's not hearing me. Anyway, Angela, I just want to say thank you very much. The conversation has been spontaneous, and a lot of this is going to come out of this conversation already. Now, Maury has indicated interest. The government agency. Maury works with and then the National Information Development Agency development in Nigeria, and I'm sure you find as a partner. So after the session today, the conversation will continue, and probably maybe more conversation. So thank you very much for making out time to educate us and inform us about how Salesforce, because back in Nigeria, I know Salesforce is the number one, but I'm not, and I know it's a part of the get there, and with the current trend, COVID-19, and everybody, actually all going online, I'm very, very sure that services so the conversation will continue after this session, and maybe we'll spending out will be useful as that of Mr. Murray, also, and the conversation will continue. So thank you for always having and your laptop or power so I want to say thank you now, and thank you everyone who has made for today's session, Mr. Humble, Cooper, everybody. But thank you, and make out. So if there's a part from now or Angela, the floor for me.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining the meeting. So we'll look forward to joining the next one. Is it next Saturday? The next meeting?
Yeah, Mr. Humble, I'm putting on the spot. Mr. Humble is taking off next Saturday. Humble, are you there?
All right. Well, see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Not a problem. All right. Bye, everyone.